What's going on, guys? Dawkbro back again. Hope you're all fantastic today, and welcome to Fetch What You Need to Know. Before I start doing the summary, guys, I just want you to know, okay, some people are confusing the books to be directly linked with the game lore, okay? Scott's already mentioned that the books are in a separate universe to the game lore. There's two separate universes right now, okay? The video game lore and the book lore, okay? Two separate universes. The reason why I mention lore at the end of every video is because I pick out some of the lore in the books that can fit in with the game lore, okay? For example, To Be Beautiful was about a necklace that could turn a robot into a human. Those are the illusion discs, okay, that can fit in with the Funtime animatronics or the Nightmare animatronics, okay, giving an illusion of what you want to see, okay. Links with the Twisted animatronics, etc. The illusion discs can fit in, or try to fit in. We can theorise that the illusion discs fit in with the Nightmare animatronics, for example. I read these because I enjoy them, and to let you guys know, even if it's a separate universe, it's still really interesting. But it's nice to try and pinpoint things from the books to try and fit them into the game universe as well. Although they're in separate universes, guys, they still have connections, okay? First story of Fazbear Frights 2 is Fetch, this dog animatronic that can connect to mobile phones and do some pretty dark stuff. A really dark and nice ending. I enjoyed the ending. It's a pretty brutal ending, but I enjoyed this first story. I really liked it. Really interesting animatronic, guys, Fetch is. When I go into the full summary of everything, it's a really good story. It goes into detail about like coding and how robots can sense things and they can read people's minds and stuff like that. It's really interesting lore. I kind of can't fit it in with the FNAF lore that much because we haven't really gone into this detail before about robots and them being able to read humans, and pretty sci-fi, guys, really sci-fi, this story behind the scenes. But the main focus about Fetch, guys, is that the animatronic is really cool. I like him. It's quite mysterious, you know, really mysterious. So, to give my quick review, non-spoiler review on Fetch, I enjoyed it. From reading 4 of these stories, guys, from the Fazbear Frights, they try to bring some character to the characters, you know, which is fine. And that's what they have to do. You've got to remember that each story is separate, okay? And there's gonna be new characters with each story. But yeah, I'd say the action in this was good. I enjoyed it. But yeah, I do feel like there was too much non-action, if that makes sense. Which is absolutely fine. I still really enjoyed it. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. And let's get straight into the full summary, okay? I have got one of my amazing artists, Wackery, to do some illustrations. So the reason why I like illustrations and showing you guys a picture is because it helps your imagination, okay? Think things better, you know. When I talk about the book, I don't want you guys just to be looking at me just talking, you know. I want you guys to see pictures and illustrations, so you can get your mind, you know, a better summary. You can give your mind a better summary about the book and what it's about, and, you know, stuff like that. What I really liked about the start of this book, guys, is that it gets straight into the action, just like the Funtime Freddy story on last one, where it starts off with the action. This one does as well. So, 3 friends, guys. Greg, Cyril, and Heidi, or Haddie. 3 friends go to a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza building. It's abandoned. It's in a thunderstorm. Interestingly, it's in a quiet town next to the ocean, which is kind of strange, right? Really raining, you know, like a horror film, okay? You know that something bad's going to happen when it's a thunderstorm. What's interesting though is that it's at a seaside town somewhere near Olympia, Washington, which is way up north, right? I'm pretty sure it is. I hope I'm right. Hurricane Utah is where all the drama happened, right? In the main stories of, you know, William Afton and stuff. That seems to be where it like was first set off. But Washington is quite far away, guys, from Utah, you know. So first things first, there's a Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria in a quiet seaside town. It goes to show, guys, that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is a big branch, okay? That's the first thing I wanted to say. Just like how Chuck E. Cheese is in America, okay? In the game and probably in the universe, in this universe, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is a big branch. It's a big chain of restaurants, okay? They've even got a restaurant in a seaside town. And weirdly, the first thing that's pinpointed is that Greg has been wanting to go to this pizzeria for days. Something is drawing him into the pizzeria. We don't know why just yet, but we learn later on why. So this is a really nice scene, guys. They go inside the pizzeria, they check the kitchens, and everything is all there and in place. Like, nothing has been taken away. Like, the pots and pans are still there, just like it was how many years ago? The tables and chairs are all there. So Greg wonders why the pizzeria closed and all of the stuff was just left behind. It's kind of weird. It's really strange, actually. It just goes to show that the pizzeria was closed suddenly by the looks of things. Like, the business was closed suddenly. Obviously because of the murders, okay? Another pinpoint thing that I'm going to talk about later on is that when they're walking through the pizzeria, there's a big stage with the curtain drawn closed, okay? It's a massive stage in the pizzeria, but the curtains are closed. And when they walk past it, they all think that they see the curtain move. So already, it seems like somebody else is lurking around the pizzeria. Is it a ghost? Is it somebody else? Is it an animatronic? We don't know. And the whole location is really dusty. The whole location is set in with dust. There's no other footprints. They go into the pizzeria and it looks like nobody else has been there since it was closed, okay? They are the only people who went inside the pizzeria. There's no other footprints. They're the only three who have been there. They're walking around with a flashlight and they look down and they see the prize corner. The prize corner is very important now, guys. So we know that this place hasn't been robbed or anything because all of the toys and all the plushies are all still there just like how they were. It's really weird that nobody's been there. There's no graffiti on the walls. There's no vandalism in there. They're the only three who have been there. Like, it looks pristine, apart from all the dust, okay? A few broken chairs and stuff, probably just been withered away. Inside the location, it's normal. It's pristine, apart from the dust. Outside of the pizzeria, it's been withered away from the ocean breeze, the salt. The salt is very bad for eroding things, right? Erosion. The sign has gone withered and everything, but inside the pizzeria, it's all the same. It's been the same for years, just a layer of dust on everything. And Greg again thinks, like, why was I called here? Why do I feel like I was called into this location? So Greg goes in the location and he thinks that something is calling him. Greg had known something would be here, but he didn't expect the building to still hold dishes and furniture, and what else? Greg looked at what Heidi held, and he sucked in his breath. Was this why the old place was calling to him? And all Heidi was holding, guys, was like a plushie figure. Not important, but it goes to show that Greg is actively searching for something. Like, why was he called here? He's been called here to get something. So on the prize counter, guys, there's loads of figures and plushies of octopus, you know, weird characters that we've never seen before. And there was some good prizes as well, some expensive prizes, guys, some good prizes. But the main focus now is when they're looking around the prize corner, they see the top prize. What's that one? Cyril pointed at a large-headed figure with a big nose. It sat under a sign that read, "Top Prize." Greg picked it up before Heidi could. It was heavy, and its fur felt matted and coarse. He was oddly drawn to the animal, whatever it was. He studied the pointed ears, sloped forehead, long snout, and piercing yellow eyes. Then he noticed the blue collar around the animal's neck. Something gleaming dangled from the collar. A dog tag? He lifted it. "Fetch," Heidi read over Greg's shoulder. "It's a dog named Fetch." Greg loved dogs for the most part, but he hoped to never see one like this one in real life. He held the dog up and turned it this way and that. Even the vicious old dog that lived next door to Greg wasn't this ugly. Fetch looked like someone had crossed the big bad wolf with the shark from Jaws. His, surely it was a he, head was a triangle, pointy on top with a mouth far too wide for comfort at the bottom. Fetch's fur, which looked greyish-brown in the splotchy glow of their flashlights, was missing in places, revealing tarnished metal beneath. A couple of wires stuck out of the big ears, and a partially exposed cavity in Fetch's belly revealed what looked like primitive circuit board. "Look at this!" Cyril was surprisingly now interested in the counter. He picked up a small booklet inside a plastic sheath. "I think it's the instructions." "Let me see." Greg plucked the booklet from Cyril's grasp. "Hey!" Cyril squeaked. Greg ignored his protests. This could be it. Putting Fetch back on the counter, he pulled the booklet from the plastic and scanned through the instructions. Heidi read over his shoulder. Cyril stuck his head between Greg's chest and the booklet, forcing Greg to hold the booklet farther out so they could read it all together. Fetch, the instructions explained, was an animatronic dog designed to sync up with your phone and retrieve information and other things for you. "That's lit," Heidi said. "Think it still works?" "How long has this place been empty?" Greg asked. "Fetch looks like he's older than my dad, but smartphones haven't been around that long." Heidi shrugged. Greg finally did too, and he began poking around Fetch to find the control panel. Heidi and Cyril lost interest. "It isn't going to work. It's older tech. It won't be compatible with our phones," Cyril said, cringing when the wind surged against the building again. Greg felt a chill sliver down his spine. Whether it was related to the wind's eerie onslaught or something else, he wasn't sure. So guys, I think it's pretty obvious that Fetch is what Greg has been looking for, okay? Greg was drawn into the location, looking around for something important, and his eyes are interested in Fetch, okay? Again, this is pretty sci-fi, but it seems like something has drawn Greg to find Fetch. A very important part in this now, guys, okay? So, when Greg is trying to configure with Fetch, trying to turn it on, because it's not active right now, he's trying to turn it on and activate it, the storm stops. There is silence now in the pizzeria, okay? He's trying to mess with Fetch, trying to configure him, the storm stops. While he's trying to configure Fetch, above him is a dark stain on the ceiling. Right above him when he's trying to configure with Fetch. Trying to configure with Fetch. Storm stops. Above him is a dark black stain. Everywhere else in the pizzeria ceiling, there's no other black stain. Okay, just above Greg. And then, suddenly, the storm comes back. Crash! Fetch activates. He'd picked up Fetch and found a panel under Fetch's belly. Juggling the instructions, Fetch and his flashlight, Greg bit his lip and concentrated on hitting the right buttons in the right sequence. For an instant, the wind and rain let up, leaving the building in a silence that felt almost menacing. Greg glanced at the ceiling. He noticed a large stain above his head. A water stain? Distracted from his task for a second, he shined his light over the whole ceiling. No other stains. In fact, why wasn't the whole inside of the restaurant dripping? He thought he'd seen a part of the metal roof missing when he had first looked at the building. Why wasn't it leaking? Shrugging, he returned his attention to Fetch. At this point, he was just randomly pushing buttons. None of the sequences laid out in the instructions were doing anything. As abruptly as it had stopped, the wind and rain started up again in a crescendo of maniac drumming, pounding and wailing. That's when Fetch moved. Suddenly, with a whirring sound, Fetch's head raised, then his gaping, tooth-filled mouth opened and he growled. What the hell? Greg dropped Fetch on the counter and leaped back. Simultaneously, Cyril erupted from his chair. What? Heidi asked. So, he was trying to configure with Fetch, guys. It wasn't activating. He tried all of the buttons from the instructions. It wasn't working. To me, Fetch wasn't active and he wasn't going to work, okay? Fetch was dead, but Fetch was reactivated by something. Dark spirit, the location could be haunted. It feels like the dark stain represents something, and the thunderstorm seems like that dark stain entered Fetch's body. Whether that's just a dark entity, we don't know, guys. It's never explained. But to me, guys, something is possessing Fetch. We don't know who, but that's what I'm getting from this. So, after when Fetch growls, guys, he's active now. He's just sat there, doing nothing. And they all think it's really cool, like Fetch is activated now. It's really cool. But they also wonder what was behind that curtain. Okay, remember I talked about the curtain and the curtain possibly moved at the start. They wonder what happened. Then a door slams around the pizzeria. There's a big bang. So somebody has slammed a door, whether it was the storm, whether it was somebody else. A door slams. They all get scared. They leave Fetch behind and they all run away. Okay? They all run away, run out of the pizzeria and they all go home. Pretty cool start, guys, right? They all enter the pizzeria, they find Fetch, they activate Fetch. Big door slam. They all run home. Okay? So when he goes home, his Uncle Darren is there, okay? Uncle Darren is a nice guy. He's rich. He's got luck. He gets rich lucky. He's got a lucky finger. He has a really good relationship with Greg. He looks up at his phone when his uncle says, I've been trying to call you. You didn't answer. Are you okay? I wanted to come and check up on you. He looks at his phone and he's got missed calls from his uncle. He didn't hear them in the pizzeria. No noise, okay? No noise from his mobile phone in the pizzeria. Interesting point to make. Not much about this, guys, about this part. Just his Uncle Darren's there fixing up a generator because the storm's really bad. Greg doesn't like his dad. He likes Uncle Darren more than his dad. His uncle's getting a dog, but Greg has a neighbour whose dog is very nasty dog. And when Greg was younger, the neighbour's dog bit his ankle, and he had to get stitches. Greg has had a rough time with dogs in the past. Just wait until later. Greg loves science, okay? And this is where it goes deep with machines and plants and consciousness, the 0 point field, machines and consciousness, machines having a brain, machines understanding what humans want and stuff. The advanced scientific theory class at school. Heidi was there as well, his other friend. And this is the first point we need to make about the science stuff. The 0 point field, okay? Let me do like a quick summary of the 0 point field in the book. The 0 point field is basically, even if there's an empty room with nothing in, absolutely nothing, just darkness. Imagine just a dark room, okay? But even in a dark room with absolutely nothing inside, there will still be activity in the empty spaces. Even at low temperatures, any temperature, there's still going to be like particles and matter in that 0 point field. And then, bam, first text from Fetch. So Fetch is now texting Greg, guys, okay? So Fetch has connected to Greg's mobile phone. So even this old animatronic that was made years and years ago can connect to a modern mobile phone. Remember, guys, this is set in modern times, okay? They watch YouTube and stuff, and Fetch can connect to his iPhone. Let's say he's got the new iPhone. Fetch can connect to it and text him. Just goes to show that the technology that William Afton made, whoever made this animatronic, was beyond the times. Beyond the times, you know. An animatronic connecting to the phone. Now, is this the spirit, or whatever, this dark entity connecting to the phone, or is it the actual robot, the technology? We don't know whether William Afton's a genius or it's the spirit dark entity connecting to the mobile phone. We don't know. And the first thing Fetch says is, "Hello, Greg. How are you?" It's crazy, right? So the first thing Fetch says to Greg is, "Hello, Greg. How are you? Question for you. Why did you leave?" So Fetch is weird, man. Fetch is weird. So Fetch is like, "Why did you leave?" And then Greg thinks it's a joke, like, "Ha, you're hilarious." And then he goes, "Thank you. You answer. Answer the question, Greg. Why did you leave?" And then he repeats it again. "You answer." So already, guys, Fetch is pretty aggressive. Like, he wants to know why Greg left. Greg doesn't tell him why. But that makes Greg think about who was in the location, who slammed that door. Again, I'm going to talk about that in the lore part, who I think slammed the door and who's going around and stuff. But I wonder if it's a prank and somebody who slammed the door came into the pizzeria and took Fetch from them, and they're pranking around. But yeah, Fetch is still texting him, guys, all the time, texting him stuff, listening. Fetch is now connected with Greg's phone, right? Now, this is what's interesting and really weird. So, because Fetch is now connected with Greg's phone, Fetch can listen to everything he says, everything he texts. So, when Greg had homework to do, Fetch sent him website links to help him. Let's say I was studying maths and I didn't understand a question, Fetch would text me the answer, or text me a website to help me. So Fetch could listen in to Greg at all times. Now, at the science class now, for homework, they're studying REG coding. Like 001001110, that coding, okay? And the zeros and the ones mean different things, and they come up with a code when you put them in all together, okay? Fetch gives him a code, guys. The 01100, and it says, "Okay, question mark." So Fetch knows about this REG coding, which is very important later on with the theory. And this isn't the first time, guys, Scott has used like REG coding in his games, okay? One example is Chipper and Sons. There was this like robot in the forest that said coding, and it said like "help me" or something like that. So yeah, Scott has used REG coding before. Never has with the FNAF games though, I'm pretty sure. I don't think he's ever done like REG coding in the FNAF games. But in this book, it's important. This is an interesting one again. So Greg asks his mom for a chocolate bar, okay? "Mom, can I have a chocolate bar?" "No, I'm gonna get you fruit instead." When his mom does the online shopping and the delivery comes, the chocolate bar's there. So even Fetch can connect with his mom's phone, and like the outside of Greg's phone, Fetch can change his mom's orders online to get him a chocolate bar. So far, we've only had Fetch connect with the phone and text him. and stuff, okay? We still don't know where Fetch is, etc. We don't know if he's still in the pizzeria. Basically, Greg and his uncle and a kid have a picnic indoors, and Greg has a rubber spider on the picnic just to prank as a joke. And the little boy says like, no, get rid of it, I don't like it, get rid of that spider. So Greg goes outside and buries the rubber spider to get rid of it. I don't know why, he could have just put it in the cupboard or something, or in a drawer. But Greg decides to bury the rubber spider to get rid of it forever. Some more backstory about the plants and stuff and robots. Greg has plants in his room, and he thinks that the plants can sense him, and they respond to what he does. So let's say Greg played some opera music, it helps the plants grow. I'm just telling you that, guys, because Greg is obsessed with plants and like mechanics and stuff, sensing things, knowing things. And that directly goes back to the pizzeria building. Does the FNAF pizzeria building have its own sense? Can it draw Greg into the location? That's what I mean, the 0 point field and stuff. So there's a big bully at the school, guys, called Trent. He's a bully, and Greg, Heidi and Cyril hate him, okay? And they really want to prank him. And apparently, Trent hates spiders. He hates spiders to death. And they all thought, texting, talking to each other, why don't we prank Trent with a spider? And Greg goes, oh, I have a spider. I've got one, but I buried it in the backyard. I'll need to go and get it. Greg goes to check up on the spider, the rubber spider that he buried, okay? He opens the door, and on the welcome mat outside the house is the rubber spider. Fetch got the spider for him. Fetch dug up the spider, grabbed it with his mouth and dropped it off at the welcome mat, okay? We know it was Fetch because there's bite marks on the spider in the bag. So yeah, Fetch got Greg the spider without asking. Greg didn't ask Fetch to bring him the spider, okay? Fetch did it anyway. Fetch was watching the texting and the talking about the spider. Fetch got him the spider. So remember that, guys, okay? Fetch retrieves things without asking, okay? And then Fetch texts Greg saying Merry Christmas when he brings the spider to his door. So Fetch knows everything, okay? And again, this is so creepy, guys. So Greg's like, oh my God, Fetch has just got me the spider. Through text, he knew what was going on. I need to tell my friends about this. I'm going to hold a meeting. I'm going to hold a meeting at the house to tell Heidi and Cyril what's happening. And Fetch texts before the meeting, do you need food for meeting? So Fetch knows everything, guys. Like, everything Greg thinks and plans. Fetch is like, do you need food for the meeting? You know. Although that can come off as being nice, like, that's quite nice of Fetch to do that. Fetch is basically hinting to Greg, like, I know everything you're talking about. You're going to tell your friends about me. Do you need food for the meeting? At the meeting, guys, Greg tries to explain everything. He's even printed out the text messages, and he's still got them on his phone. He shows Cyril and Heidi all of the messages. So this is where Greg starts to theorize about Fetch, okay? So Greg knows, and the boys know, that it's synced up with his phone, but Greg thinks more about it, okay? It's like my plants, I think. Have you heard of Cleve Baxter? He was a polygraph expert who started doing experiments with plants in the 1960s. And he goes more into detail about this, guys, about Cleve Baxter with plants. Greg is trying to say, guys, that Fetch has its own consciousness, like the plants. And the plants and tech and things have their own consciousness, and they can connect with humans. They can know what humans are thinking. They can read humans' minds. They have a connection, okay? So when Greg thinks about doing a meeting and stuff, or Greg thinks about getting the spider, etc., not only can Fetch read phone messages and text, he can also know what Greg is thinking as well, like they're synced together. This isn't really explained in the game lore, is it? So I can't really connect it with anything. Can the other animatronics in the games know what the night guard's thinking, or, you know, stuff like that, or the children? Is that how the animatronics lured kids into the location, lured them into the stomachs, the Funtime animatronics? We don't know. Could that be how William Afton lured kids into the back room at the locations? The friends all think that someone was in the building watching them, guys, okay? The door slamming shut, the curtains moving. They think someone else was in the building at that point. Just want to say now that we never find out if that was actually true or not. We never find out if someone else was in the building. But then, when they're talking about that, guys, which is really, really weird, right? They talk about, like, what? Was it a stalker? Who was it? Who else was in the building? We don't know. What's going on? That's just crazy. Greg gets a text saying, evil laugh from Fetch. E-L, evil laugh. So, Fetch knows who was in the building, by the looks of things. Why would Fetch text them saying evil laugh when they're talking about was somebody else in the pizzeria? I think that's that dark spirit inside Fetch or something like that. It's like, yeah, it was me. So the REGs produce a positive or negative pulse and then turn the pulses into ones and zeros, which, as you know, is binary code, the 010001. And they experiment, guys, later on how the human brain can try and connect with REGs to produce coding. Let's connect this with Fetch, okay? I want a chocolate bar. Fetch's REG machine inside him. 0001001001. Greg wants a chocolate bar. Fetch gets him a chocolate bar. Okay? I think that's what it's trying to say, guys, is that Fetch is an REG, has an REG machine inside of his programming, which can connect with speech and thoughts and texting, which then translates to binary code for Fetch to read to then do the actions that he wants to do. But I will say, though, guys, that Fetch does have his own consciousness, okay? Because he is texting Greg. You know, he does have something. He's not just an REG machine that does blah, 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 blah. Gets a command, goes and does it. No. He does do that, though. Gets code, blah, 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 does the action. But he also does actions himself. Fetch does his actions. He texts Greg things, okay? An important character in this story, guys, now is Kimberly. Kimberly is Greg's crush. Greg admires Kimberly for years, okay? Kimberly's Greg's crush, and they pair up. They're put together in an assignment, the project. And interestingly, like, Greg was like, oh, please pair me up with Kimberly. Please pair me up with Kimberly. And then they paired up. So Greg was like, wow, my intention worked. And then Fetch texts Greg saying, congrats. This is a really interesting part, guys. Gruesome part, warning. Greg walks home, goes home, and the neighbour's dog is really acting up now. So the neighbour's dog is really nasty. The same dog that bit Greg when he was younger, bit his ankle. The dog's inside now, like rabid. Jumps over the neighbour's gate and chases after Greg. Greg's running away, and then the dog jumps onto Greg, tries to rip his throat out. So the dog wants to kill Greg. Very aggressive, nasty dog. Only a little dog, but like very, very aggressive, hates Greg. But Greg manages to put him over the gate, and, you know, he's fine, okay? He didn't get bit or anything, but nearly got bit by the neighbour's dog. Greg texts his friend saying, oh my God, I nearly just got killed by this dog again. Nearly ripped my throat out, as a joke. Now remember that, guys, okay? So Greg has texted Heidi, this neighbour's dog tried to nearly kill me. What's Fetch going to do? So at the night time, Greg has a nightmare about the pizzeria being chased by Fetch a faceless man, and the neighbour's dog next door, okay? Interesting dream, guys, okay? So, he has a nightmare about Fetch, a faceless man, and the neighbour's dog, the aggressive dog. And in the pizzeria, loads of plants are everywhere. The plants that he was growing, they're all growing around the pizzeria, massive plants. And on the stage, guys, is REG coding spewing out 0101001101001, okay? Is that a meaning of anything? Is that a meaning? Who's this faceless man? And who's the faceless man? And the pizzeria growing plants and everything. And the coding, like I said, the binary code that connects with the plants and connects with Fetch. Greg wakes up, opens the door, and what does he find? The neighbour's dog. Dead on the welcome mat. So it originally started with the buried spider, and now it's the dead neighbour's dog. Throat torn apart, belly gutted, intestines all over the floor. Fetch killed the dog, okay? Fetch can kill things. Fetch is aggressive. Not like at first, you know, Fetch got me a chocolate bar. Fetch got me the buried spider. You know, he seems to be okay. Kills the neighbour's dog, guys. Rips it apart with his teeth. So obviously Greg is like, oh my God, what is going on? Hides the dog in the bushes next to his house. And just to hide it for now, you know, there's a dead dog on the porch. If anybody's going to see this, it's going to be horrible. And then Fetch texts Greg saying, you're welcome. So, there you go. Fetch texts Greg saying, you're welcome. Fetch killed the dog. And then Greg starts to think about this now, guys. Like, Fetch seemed to be doing more than accessing old messages. Is he listening into Greg's life? How is Fetch listening into Greg's life? It's all to do with this REG binary code, okay? Greg tells the friends what's happened, shows them the dead dog. Fetch did this, guys. Look what Fetch did. I told you about the neighbour's dog, and look what's happened. Fetch has ripped apart the dog. We need to go back to Freddy's. We need to know what's going on here. Is Fetch still there? Is this a prank? We need to know if Fetch has moved from the location to prove more that this isn't just a prank, that Fetch is actively out and killing people and dogs and fetching things for me and listening into what I'm doing. Kind of like a Stranger Things, or if you watched It, they get more secure now. They bring baseball bats and kitchen knives. Just imagine the three of them going back to the pizzeria with like baseball bats and stuff. Easy to go back in the location, guys. They go in and nothing's been changed, okay? Where they broke into the location, it's still broken. Nobody's fixed it or gone back to fix it, okay? They go in, just out, just like last time. They go inside, guys, and this is really nice details, guys. I loved this part, you know. We get some nice details about the pizzeria, which is really good. And I'm going to give you all the information you need to know. So, they go inside the pizzeria, guys. They try and look for footprints, you know. Was somebody else in here? But all of the footprints that they made running out has made all the footprints scuffle. There's no evidence of anything else, okay? Cyril tells the friends that he did some research about Freddy's. This was part of a pizza chain that closed down after something happened to one of them. It was really hard to find that information. Why? Cyril tried to look why it closed down, but he couldn't find anything on the internet about it. And then they find dog tracks. Dog tracks are around the pizzeria. And then they hear a clattering clash in the background over there. In the pizzeria, there's a big noise. They're all like, oh my God, somebody else is in here. What are we gonna do? Let's find out. So they go down the hallway and they check each room, and we get some nice details about each room, which was really nice. They first checked the control room. Inside the control room, old PC monitors, keyboards, control panels, nothing else in the room. They mess around with the control panels just to see if anything happened. Nothing happens, okay? The control room. Then they go into security. Inside the security room is the same. Old PC monitors, all that jazz, you know, just junk, okay? Then they go into a room, storage. And this is the only room left, okay? This is the only room that they have to check. And they want to know if they're being pranked or to see how Fetch is working. Like, what the hell is going on here? Is this a big prank? So, before they open the security door, guys, this is a very interesting point again. Cyril grabs Greg's arm and goes, "Wait! You never told us what you wanted to do here. Why are we here?" "Yeah, dude," Heidi agreed. "You kept saying you had to see." "See what? Fetch? What are you going to do when you see him? Interrogate him? Reason with him? He's a piece of machinery." "Yeah," Cyril said. "And when we left him, he wasn't there." He pointed to the door. Greg didn't know how to explain why he needed to be here. "I have to know whether someone else was here and is pranking us. And if it's Fetch, I want to see how it's working." He didn't bother explaining why he had to look in this room. Before they could protest him, he opened the door and he fell back into his friends. Cyril screamed. Heidi gasped, staring back at the boys. In the gleaming streams of their lights were 4 life-sized animatronic characters. They were at least 5 times bigger than Fetch, who was about the size of a beagle. Greg recovered himself first. He aimed his light around the room. Every time the beam landed on something, Greg's breath caught. The room didn't just house the 4 characters, it was also filled with animatronic parts and character costumes, a whole wardrobe full of them. Dozens of pairs of sightless eyes stared at them through the flashlight-transcended gloom, or at least Greg hoped they were sightless. His friends hadn't spoke since they opened the door. Suddenly, a raspy humming sound filled the room. The boys' lights skittered all over the space, searching for the sound's origin. One of the animatronics characters seemed to move its leg, and then something small, dark and furry shot out from behind it, arced towards the boys, barked, and then bolted out the room. Before they could do more than gasp in unison, whatever it was disappeared from view. So, as soon as the dog bolted out, guys, they all absolutely panicked and they all ran out the pizzeria again, guys, okay? But when they're running out of the pizzeria, something behind them is chasing them, okay? Growling like claw marks behind them, running behind them. It's so creepy. And when they all try and squeeze out of the door to escape, something nips at Greg's ankle. And they all run out. He managed to escape from getting nipped at the leg. They all get out, right? It's raining again. They all get on the bikes and run and bike away. They turn around though, guys. Greg turns around, right, with his flashlight, looks back at the pizzeria, and a wet, stray mutt trotted toward them. But when Cyril yelped in fear, the dog veered away into the fir trees that surrounded the abandoned pizzeria. So they run away, right? And they turn around and they see a stray dog whining. So it wasn't Fetch, guys, in the pizzeria, apparently. It was a stray dog just roaming around the pizzeria. Was that Fetch with an illusion disc or something? I don't know. It's never explained again. Never explained. And then, guys, they go back into the pizzeria because he's like, that wasn't Fetch, it was a stray dog. Let's go back inside. I need to see if Fetch is there or not on the prize counter still. We still haven't checked because of what happened in the storage room. We need to go and check. They check, guys, and Fetch is not there. Okay, Fetch is gone. We kind of knew that was going to happen anyway, let's be real. But, yeah, they had to double check, and Fetch isn't there. Greg wonders like, oh, so does Fetch do his deeds, listen to what Greg's doing, gets him the spider, kills the dog, whatever, and then goes back to the pizzeria. Where does Fetch hide? What is he doing? Is he just roaming around, or is he just living in the pizzeria? Don't know. And was that really a stray dog? We don't know. It's never explained again. Whether that was a stray dog or Fetch with an illusion disc or not. And then Fetch texts Greg saying, hope to see you soon. Now, this makes... Greg's smart, guys. Greg is very smart, and he realises what's going on. So anytime he texts about things, Fetch listens and does the deed, okay? So, for example, this is a big one. Prediction on what's going to happen in the future, okay? And this is the first one. So Greg texts his Spanish friend. He needs help with his Spanish homework. Greg on the night, guys, texts Manuel. His name's Manuel, the Spanish friend. Texts Manuel on the night saying, I need help with my Spanish homework. Can you help me, please? Can you help me with my Spanish? And then in the morning, he texts Manuel again. No answer. Okay? So obviously Greg's brain is ticking now and thinking, oh my God, Fetch is going to fetch me, Manuel. He's going to kill Manuel and bring him to my house because I've asked Manuel for help, right? Fetch is going to be like, okay, programmed. Greg wants Manuel. Let's go get Manuel, fetch him, bring him home. Luckily, Manuel's fine, okay? He was outside with his dog, you know. What's interesting, guys, okay? This is a very small thing that I noticed. Manuel's dog was Spanish, okay? So when Greg tried to talk to Manuel's dog in English, he didn't respond, didn't reply, didn't do anything, didn't get a reaction. But when Greg spoke in Spanish, the dog responded. I thought that was an interesting, tiny little detail about Fetch. Seems like Fetch only responds to his coding, his REG machine, his binary code, okay? And like I said, guys, nothing happens after that for a while. The weekend passes with no issues. Greg's happy now, feels like it's over. And the science assignment was to attempt to control the REG machine with their minds. They have an REG machine in the class, okay? And they need to use their minds to try and control it. Okay? And then it goes back to the plants again, guys. Remember the scientist, Baxter? The plants can read Baxter's mind. The cells in the plants can sense thoughts. They have their own consciousness. And then brains can influence a machine. Machines have their own consciousness as well. This goes with the 0-point field, okay? Greg can concentrate on things for guidance, okay? Because Greg has been experimenting with all this stuff and he's learned to use his brain to concentrate on these feelings and senses, that's what led him to Freddy's. That's what led him to Freddy's, to sense other things, okay? And his brain was led to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and Fetch. It's not just Fetch that can read senses and minds and coding. Greg has taught himself as well. Listen and concentrate on other things in the 0-point field. Now, after this science class, guys, Fetch texts him. Too easy. What's too easy? Greg responded. All of the above. All of the above what? Greg asked. 411. All of the above information was too easy. What did Fetch mean? Was he talking about Greg's conversation with Kimberly at class? Was he saying that Greg was making the 0-point field too easy? And why did Greg care about the opinion of an animatronic dog anyway? He wanted to ignore Fetch, but then Fetch texted REG me too. Fetch then texted a link to a website that sold small REGs. Fetch is telling Greg that he has a small REG machine inside him. Okay? You can see where this is going, right? like I said at the start, that's why the book includes the science experiment with the REG machine, okay? Using your brain with the REG machine to control it and create coding. Fetch has a small REG machine inside of him. So when Greg texts things, it's connected with his phone and with his thoughts and his speech and everything. Fetch can understand what's going on, okay? The animatronic dog has an REG machine. When Greg thinks of something or talks about something, goes into Fetch's REG machine that produces binary coding that Fetch then understands, and he does what he's been told, okay? Fetch is programmed to fetch. So this is when things get very, 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 like, dramatic now. We've learned about Fetch and his REG machine. Now, Greg is a bit silly here, guys. It's to do with the plot, though, anyway. It's fun. So, Greg wants to make money, okay? Greg's happy now, you know, things are chill. Fetch hasn't done anything bad for a while, okay? So, Greg texts his uncle saying, "Uncle, how do you make so much money? I want some help to know how you make so much money. Teach me how to use your lucky finger," okay? Because like I said at the start, the uncle has a lucky finger apparently that's a joke around the family where everything he touches makes money because he's rich. He's got rich very lucky, you know, he's a lucky man. Fetch texts Greg saying, "Good night, sweet dreams." See where this is going, right? Greg woke up and realised still no answer from Uncle Darren. Oh no, guys. Greg thinks, oh my God, what have I done? I need to go and check on my uncle. Doesn't live that far away. I need to go and check on him now. At the welcome mat, again. At first, it was a spider. Next, it was the dead dog. And now, it's Uncle Darren's lucky finger with the ring on. So Fetch did what he was asked to do. You know, he read through the texts, pinpointed, how do I make money fast, Uncle Darren? How do I use your lucky finger? Fetch. Bing bong, bing bong, doo-dah. Go and kill Uncle Darren, grab his finger. Give it to Greg. Luckily though, Uncle Darren was not dead. The mom comes to the door. Luckily she doesn't see the finger. He grabs it and puts it in his pocket to hide it. The mom goes, "Oh, I've got to tell you something. Something's happened to Uncle Darren, Greg. He was attacked by a wild animal. He's in hospital recovering, but he'll be okay. I can't believe this has happened." And then obviously now Greg is like, "Oh my God, what have I done? Uncle Darren nearly died because of what I did. I texted him and look what I've done. I need some air, Mom. Give me a sec, I need some air." Page 70. Let's have a read. Greg didn't know where he'd been planning to go when he left his house, but before he could go anywhere, he was stopped in his tracks. Was that? Yes, it was. Under the shore pines clustered near the back of his yard, next to the marram grass at the edge of the dunes, Fetch sat. His eyes glowed red in the now pre-dawn light, and his ears were tilted forward as if in question. Greg was so angry and upset, he didn't even think about running away. Instead, he grabbed the baseball bat from his dad's pile of sporting equipment and took one step toward Fetch, then another, and then he was sprinting full out. Fetch stood, eyes bright. He looked at Greg. If Fetch had been a real dog, Greg would have thought this was cute, but Fetch wasn't a real dog. He was an animatronic killer made to look like a dog. Greg wasn't going to let the seemingly happy look stop him. When Greg reached Fetch, he didn't hesitate. He swung the bat at Fetch's head. The first strike split open the top of Fetch's head, revealing a metal skull and ripped wires. Sparks flew as Greg wound up another swing. "What did you do?" Greg screamed at the Fetch. Fetch's mouth hinged open in what looked like a silly grin. Greg swung the bat and whacked Fetch's mouth. Metal teeth sprayed out and more sparks sputtered at the end of the wires that hung through the mouth's opening. But Fetch was still looking at Greg with what looked like an eager gaze. "Stop it!" Greg shrieked. Swinging the bat in a wide arc, he brought it down on Fetch's head as hard as he could. Metal clanged, more sparks flitted out in the wet dune grass, and Greg kept up his assault. He pounded on Fetch with the bat, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Finally, Fetch's face was pulverised, but Greg wasn't done. He raised the bat again and battered what was left of the machine. Soon, the remnants of animatronic killer didn't resemble anything but a small pile of industrial debris. Still, Greg didn't stop. Not until he had blisters on his palms and he was chomping at the sea air in frantic, wide-mouthed gulps. Finally, he dropped the bat. Greg fell back on his butt in the sloppy, wet dunes. He stared at the pile of metal, hinges, synthetic fur, and wires as he sat, catching his breath. Greg destroyed Fetch with the baseball bat. And like I said, with the Spanish dog, okay, Fetch, like Greg was like, "What did you do? What did you do? What have you done?" And Fetch didn't respond. So Fetch can't speak. Fetch can't talk like the sister location animatronics. He doesn't have that programmed in him. He can only talk through text. You can see like Fetch is sat like a good boy. He's retrieved him the finger like a good pet, like he was programmed to do. He's programmed to fetch things, and he's just looking at Greg like this, not panting, but you know, like a normal good boy dog, like a cute little panting dog. Like, "I fetched you the thing, I'm a good boy, right?" And he can't respond to it. And when he's whacking him with the bat, Fetch is still looking at Greg like a good boy. Really creepy. And now this is where Greg realises that it's his programming. It's Fetch's programming. Okay, I'll read this to you guys. Again, more about the REG machine. And what was he thinking when he texted Dare about the magic finger of luck? He was the one who'd have been wrong. How could he blame this on Fetch? Fetch might have been like an REG machine in that he seemed to be reacting to Greg's thoughts. But he wasn't an REG machine. Was he? Greg didn't understand what was going on, but he thought that Fetch was responding to more than just his texts. Somehow Fetch was observing Greg's actions, and maybe he was reading his thoughts the way Greg's plants did. Fetch wasn't the 0-point field, but he was part of it. He seemed to be acting like he was the field's dog or something. Getting whatever the field thought Greg wanted. I hope you guys can understand that. So there's a 0-point field where apparently there's nothing there, but there's still something there. I think this is all about the plants. The plants can see this 0-point field, and the human brain can, but not many people know about it. Okay? Greg does, and he's got that connection with a machine, which is Fetch, and the REG machine. The REG machine can read this 0-point field, and plants can too. So the plants can go through this and read minds, read thoughts. So can an REG machine. So can Fetch. So when Greg is thinking about things, the REG machine can read it, sends out code to Fetch. Right, I've been talking for 1 hour and 40 minutes, guys. I need to get a drink because my voice is going. So, guys, it makes you think, right? Did any of the other animatronics in the game lore have an REG machine inside of them? In the garden, he's beat up Fetch. The mom comes out, asks what's going on. He buries Fetch underneath a log pile. There's a big log, and there's a hole, and he just shoves all the parts under there to hide what's going on. He checks his phone after this, by the way, and he looks, and Fetch did text him very kindly. And he said, How are you going to use the magic finger of luck, Greg? I've fetched you the finger. How are you going to use it? Ugh. So, I don't know whether Fetch knows that this is wrong to do. Maybe he doesn't. It's just his programming. I don't think Fetch knows what he's doing is bad. He's just doing what he's programmed to do. Basically, Greg is obviously really upset now. He goes into his room, he's blaming himself. He destroys all of his plants because he doesn't want anything to do with it now. You know, he's gone into this 0 point field not knowing what he's doing, okay? He's treaded in a really dangerous zone, okay? Just like the plant experiment guy, the scientist, you know, going into really deep stuff. And he's just a kid. Remember, he's just a kid. And all of this has happened to him. So he was experimenting with the 0 point field and REGs and how there's another sensory somewhere beyond in this universe. You know, on this world, humans can interact with parts and everything has a consciousness and stuff like that. And Greg got connected with the pizzeria and it's all just gone downhill from there, okay? When he's in bed, you know, he's miserable. He gets a text from Heidi saying, why weren't you at school? What's happened? Kimberly asked where you were. Okay? The girl that he's loved for years and has a huge crush on. Kimberly asked where you were. And Greg's like, oh, did she? Oh, I'm a bit late. And Heidi's like, come on, dude, now's your chance. You're together with Kimberly in an assignment for class. Do it, you know, this is your opportunity. And Greg's like, yeah, I know, I've liked her for years. I've liked her for so long. And then he takes a shower. He comes out of the shower, guys. And what does Fetch say? Will retrieve. Will retrieve. What? So Greg quickly runs out and panics like, what? I just smashed up Fetch with a baseball bat. He looks where the hole is. Fetch is gone. And there's drag marks. Drag marks. Fetch has dragged himself out of the hole, okay? It's Fetch, okay? It would have been interesting if there was like other human footprints there, but it's never said if like somebody else got Fetch to retrieve him and fixed him up. Fetch looks like he got himself out and dragged himself out. There's no like, oh, there's human footprints where I put him or something like that. So obviously Greg's like, oh my God, I need to go to Kimberly's house now. I need to go to Kimberly's house and warn her what's going on. Fetch has now got his target on Kimberly. She's gonna die. Look what he did to my uncle. Fetch has just texted me saying, will retrieve. This is bad. I'm going to go to Kimberly's house. So when he goes to Kimberly's house, guys, nobody's there, which is good. It's a good sign. And then he just hides in the bush next to the house just to wait to see what happens. He wants to look around for Fetch as well, see if Fetch is around waiting as well to go into the house to kill Kimberly. The parents arrive in the cars with Kimberly, so they're together. And then Kimberly's dad finds Greg hiding in the bushes and he's like, what's going on? Why are you hiding in the bush at my house? And Greg tries to explain to Kimberly everything. So you know how this is going to look. Greg goes to Kimberly like, Kimberly, you're in danger. Somebody out there is trying to kill you. You are in serious danger. And obviously the mom and dad are like, what? What is going on, boy? Explain yourself. So Greg goes to say, like, Kimberly, do you remember the REG coding that we did in class? Well, I found an animatronic robot in an abandoned pizzeria, and connected with my phone, and every time I talk about things like the spider or my uncle, he goes and fetches it to me. He killed my neighbour's dog and he almost killed my uncle. What are you going to think? Okay, so the dad goes, what is this malarkey? I'm calling the cops. He calls the cops. So the police arrive, they question Greg, and the cop forgot about the pizzeria. The police workers there was like, is it still there? Is the pizzeria still there? So yeah, everybody around the neighbourhood forgot about the pizzeria. Interesting. This is the sad part, guys. Very, very sad, okay? So Greg got sent home, okay? Obviously the mom and dad are like, what have you done? What are you up to? Doesn't really explain anything, but he knows now. Look, I've told Kimberly that she's in danger. Kimberly's parents are going to be on guard now. The police are going to be on guard. She is safe for now. Kimberly's body's not here. Kimberly's body's not at the front porch. Kimberly is safe. But just in case, because Greg's a smart guy, you know, this isn't like a horror film where he's like, okay, I'll just leave her to see what happens. He wants to go out again in the middle of the night. He wants to go and just stay at Kimberly's house, outside the house, to protect her from Fetch. So if Fetch does arrive at the house, you know, he can scream like, watch out, Fetch is coming, as a warning. So he wants to take a shower. He wants to take a shower before he goes to visit Kimberly because he stinks of like stress and stuff, and he thought the hot shower might bring him back to life. He had to get the energy to go to Kimberly's house again. His bike was still in the back of his dad's pickup. The policeman had stuck it in his SUV when he took Greg in, and he'd given it back when he and his parents left the station. But when Greg got out the shower, he looked at the time on his phone. He also checked for texts. Nothing. That was good, right? Maybe he could take a nap before heading to Kimberly's to be sure she was okay. Heck, maybe he'd been wrong about the whole thing. Maybe Fetch was retrieving him a snack or information he hadn't even realised he requested. Maybe there really was nothing to worry about. Greg pulled on a yellow t-shirt and a pair of grey flannel sleep pants. Then he threw open the bathroom door. Barely containing a scream, Greg stumbled away from the door and fell to a tiled floor, his mind struggling to accept what he was looking at. There was something wrapped in a sheet laying across the doorway. As he stared, the once beige sheet was turning a deep, dark red, and it glistened wet in the room's muted light. Who was under the sheet? What was under the sheet? Greg couldn't get himself to move so he could find out. Greg didn't need to look any further. He knew everything he needed to know. The phone on Greg's bathroom counter vibrated. He couldn't help himself. He picked it up and looked at it. Fetch had texted, "See you." And that ends the story, guys. Fetch killed Kimberly. Didn't get time to save her. And because Greg texted his friends about wanting Kimberly to love him, Fetch retrieved Kimberly for him. Fetch killed Kimberly. What's interesting though, I don't think it's about law or anything. Like, surely Fetch, you can imagine, right? Imagine this like a Tom and Jerry cartoon. Fetch bringing in a huge body, creeping in the room and then putting over a sheet. Can a small beagle-sized animatronic do something like that? That's the end. I hope you enjoyed it. This was a really long story, guys. From now on, guys, like the first stories from Into the Pit are pretty short. These ones are a little bit longer, so the videos will be longer, okay? So let's do a quick summary. It won't take too long. 3 friends go into an abandoned pizzeria in a seaside town location. They wander around, they find a top prize, Fetch. Greg messes around with Fetch to try and configure it. With the instructions, nothing works. There's a big storm outside. When Greg is configuring with Fetch, the storm stops. On the ceiling is a big black stain. Thunder and lightning come back, the storm comes back, Fetch is activated. Fetch starts texting Greg. Normal things, you know, links to homework, helping him with his homework, giving him website links for his schoolwork, okay? Obviously, Greg thinks it's a prank at first, but, you know, Fetch is now connected with a mobile phone. In the instructions of Fetch, it says that Fetch can connect with mobile phones, and they obviously don't think it's going to work because Fetch is old. Fetch is a very, very old animatronic. This location has been closed for years. We don't know exactly how long, it's never said, but you know, it's still old. How can an old animatronic connect with a modern iPhone? Things get worse. So originally it was just links to websites, okay? Just through mobile texting, not in-person contact. When Greg asks his mom for a chocolate bar, she says no. But when the online shopping arrives at the house, the chocolate bar's there. So Fetch can do things like that as well. Greg buries a toy spider in the backyard. Greg texts his friends about pranking the bully, the school bully, with the spider. He'll go and retrieve it. The spider is at the front porch with dog bite marks on it. So Fetch has retrieved the spider, like he's programmed to do. Fetch. It gets worse and worse. So he then kills the neighbour's dog, then attacks Greg's uncle for the lucky magic finger. He then kills Kimberly's. It's a pretty simple story, but there's more to it than meets the eye, you know. You can just take that. That's literally a quick summary. But now we're going to talk about the REG machines, okay? So like I said, throughout this book, it constantly talks about the REG machines, the 0-point field, the binary code. It is important, guys. I can't really connect it with the game lore yet. You guys can theorise about it, but Fetch, inside his body, has a small REG machine. This REG machine, it can read texts that Greg sends out. It can read the human brain, thoughts. So, when Greg thinks about, oh, I want to meet Kimberly, or I want to grab this glass of water, not texting anybody. He does text sometimes. Fetch can do it, okay? So Fetch can retrieve things for Greg through reading his mobile phone texts and his mind and his thoughts. It's it's quite easy to understand, okay? It goes from 3 points. So, human brain, REG machine, coding. Human brain thinks about a chocolate bar, goes to the REG machine, produces the code, thinking about the chocolate bar. Greg wants chocolate bar. Coding 0110110010. Okay? Greg wants a chocolate bar. Fetch's REG machine reads that, turns into coding, so Fetch understands it and does the deed. I'll try and do like a quick drawing of what it is. So Greg's brain, the 0-point field, okay, where these thoughts can go through to plants and machinery, REG machines. It goes to the REG machine, which is inside of Fetch, which then turns into binary code, which is then goes through Fetch's system to program what he does, okay? Now, obviously, Fetch isn't just an REG machine, guys. It really does feel like somebody else is controlling Fetch. Okay, it's just a small part of Fetch. The REG machine allows it to read things and stuff and programming, but the way Fetch can talk to Greg and ask how he is and what he's doing today and getting like things for him, it does feel like something else is inside of Fetch. And that to me, guys, goes with the black stain on the ceiling with the thunderstorm. Okay, remember that Greg tries to activate Fetch and it doesn't work. He goes through all of the instructions one by one, pressing buttons to activate Fetch, and nothing happens. Fetch only activates. The thunderstorm stops, black stain on the ceiling, thunderstorm starts again, and Fetch activates, okay? To me, guys, something else is with Fetch, okay? It's not just the animatronic here. Fetch was made to connect to phones. Fetch was made to be a friendly dog animatronic by the looks of things. He was on the top prize at a location at a pizzeria. I really don't think Fetch was supposed to be like, you know, I know he looks a bit vicious, but, you know, I don't think the intentions were like really, really horrific. I do honestly feel like something else is inside of Fetch from that pizzeria. Whether that's, you don't know. It's kind of like Into the Pit with Spring Bonnie, right? You know, just feels like something else is within Fetch, but we don't know what. Greg has taught himself to go into the 0 point field to listen to connections and thoughts of other things, okay? It's not just Fetch that can do it, plants can do it, machinery can do it. It's really sci-fi. You know, let's say I'm just asleep and thinking, and I'm using this 0 point field and all the, you know, all that garble, and I get a connection to visit Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. So Greg goes to it, okay? Again, I'm trying to think of anything to fit that with the game lore, like a way to connect with the animatronics or something. I think it's to do with Remnant, guys. Remnant, you know, William Afton's Remnant, and how he can he can communicate with the Remnant and the spirits of the kids. Something like that is getting my brain ticking a little bit. I think William Afton knows about this 0 point field and how he can connect with machinery, and he can put the spirits in Remnant, something like that. Quick thing to also add, guys, off camera, I've completely forgot to talk about it. Was there honestly someone else in that pizzeria with them? Was there somebody else watching them? Was it the spirit? Was it an actual person? Was it the Stitch Wraith? We don't know, it's never said. Just something else for you guys to think about. What do you guys think? I really enjoyed that story, guys. Take what you want from it. I've gave you a quick summary. There's not really much lore about it, other than there's loads of other Fazbear pizzeria chains across America, okay? And there's loads of other different animatronics, okay? We've never seen this animatronic before, so probably a lot more animatronics in the future. It's not just Freddy and the gang. There's other ones as well, like Fetch. And the only lore that you can get out of this is the REG machines. Did other animatronics have REG systems? Can they read human thoughts? Did they use that to their advantage? You know, luring kids, sister location animatronics. Is it to do with William Afton and his machinery? So yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. It was a long video. It's going to take me a long time to edit, but it was worth it. Really enjoyed the first story of Fetch. The next story, guys, is Lonely Freddy. Lonely Freddy. So that's going to be an interesting one. Bet a week or two we'll do that one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Wackery, for the illustrations as well. I think it really helps get your mind in things. Remember about the REG machine, how human thoughts can connect with machinery to create programming and to connect with plants and stuff. Think about it. Lots of love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.